Hi, welcome to Real Magic Review. My name is Steve Faulkner, and this is day 3 of the session. Well, it's not day 3 of the session. The session finished the day before yesterday. I'm losing track of time. I'm now in Norway. I flew straight from the session. I had to get up at 4 in the morning, which was really surreal because I got up at 4 to leave for my flight in Heathrow, and still seeing people looking wide awake playing with decks of cards was surreal but good. So I flew up to Norway, and now I've finally got a chance to sort of have a little summary of day 3 and the whole thing, really. Do apologise, the audio might be a bit ropey. There's like an industrial ice maker machine next to me, and it is very dark in here. That's why I'm looking all moody, because in Norway at the moment, it doesn't really get light. It kind of gets light-ish, and I couldn't bring lights with me, etc. So let's get on with it. So the way the session works... Oh, like, subscribe. Please check out cardmagiccourse.com. That's my online card magic course of over 200 videos, and I add more videos if you ask any questions. So it's kind of like an ongoing thing. So that's cardmagiccourse.com, and have a look at that, please. Lovely. And share it. Be great. So, the way this session works is that there's not anything to buy, really. The Vanishing Ink stand is open for the whole thing, which is fair enough, because they run the thing. And then on the last day, the Sunday, there's a small dealer's hall, which is lovely. It's not a massive, completely destroy your mind dealer's hall. It's small enough to walk around for half an hour, well, 20 minutes, and then you've seen everything, you'd think. But weirdly enough, what happens is everybody's really primed by Sunday. It's dealers, so it opens at 9:30, and everybody's in there. And I just found myself, even though there wasn't loads to look at, which again is a very good thing, I found myself in there like 20 times. You just end up in there roaming around as if there's something you missed, not really looking at anything, and it becomes like a social thing. People are talking about the products, and I really, really enjoy it. I enjoy that thing, as opposed to Blackpool, which I enjoy in a different way, which is really intense. I mean, it's like being in a way overfilled shopping mall, or shopping centre, should I say. But that was great. And for the dealers, highlights for me, I really like the Card Shark stuff. They've got this candle, which I'm going to be reviewing, which is really great. I mean, you look at that and you go, that's 10 minutes of stage material there straight away, with very little work by the look of it. And they know what they're doing, so I really enjoyed looking at that, but I will be reviewing their products more. Phil Smith stuff, he demonstrated, which was really nice. When I reviewed his book, he's got this peak called The Biz, which he demonstrated to me, and it's lovely to sort of, I sat down as a layman, and he did his humint, I think that's how you pronounce it, or humint, but routine with me with The Biz, and I really felt like a layperson. It was really nice to be sat down. You know, when a magician demonstrates something to you, they usually just show it to you. He sat down and he performed it for me, which, after spending so much time with that book, was a really lovely thing. And I picked up that humint because it's this lovely coin with the truth or lie thing on it, which I suggest you check out. It's very nice, and was inspired to then go off and really, really learn that peak properly, which I've been practicing. Other than that, there's this app that I'll be reviewing. It's kind of 4D thing where you actually pull coins out of a phone, and we've seen a bit of that, obviously, but an app that does a lot with that. So I'm going to be reviewing that very shortly. And then there's all the Vanishing Ink books, etc., which I'm going to be, over the next few weeks, reading and reviewing, so keep a lookout for them. Obviously, the new Turner watch is lovely. And then we had David Regal. So David Regal's lecture was the first thing of the day, 10:30 in the morning. Really good turnout. Someone mentioned, actually, on the YouTube channel about his mistake he made on the first day. And actually, there were quite a lot of mistakes on the first day, actually. And I find it quite nice to watch, not in a kind of sneery way, in a genuinely nice way, to watch, established professionals make a mistake, because it reminds us that we're all human, and that is very much a part of being a magician. No matter how good you are, there will be mistakes, and I like seeing how people recover from them. And everybody, I think, someone said they soldiered on through it, and I think you should, but it happens. It's part of life, and it reminds us all that we're all fallible, and I think that's very important in magic, to not try and be perfect. If we make mistakes, that's fine, we carry on. And actually, all the mistakes that happened, even someone like Javier Benitez in the first day, that happened on that first day, didn't matter. You still relaxed, you still watched the lecture, and for me, it was absolutely fine that people make mistakes. It started off with this really nice 2-card Monty. This is all stuff out of his Interpreting Magic book. So Approaching Magic was the last book that he published, which I really, really like. His big, thick tome. full of commercial routines, commercial materials. He's a very good thinker, very clear thinker, can see a clear plot that will work, for an audience. And he's taken classic tricks, interpreted them in a different way, not in a totally different way, and published them, which is nice for us because we know we get material that works. We already know it works. The two-card Monty thing, very simple, incredibly strong. You show the two cards, turn them over, and they've changed. With a very clever method that we've seen quite a lot of recently, which I really, really liked, and took that and thought, I could do that straight away. I could do it with like 10 minutes of practice, as long as you know the process. Then going on, he did a really lovely version of Whispering Aces, and I do love Elmsley tricks when the cards change now, end up there, and he uses what I really liked, this phrase, because after that he went into another routine where using Elmsley to make cards look like they vanished and appear somewhere else with two spectators. And as he said it, he said this, you create a house of bullshit, which I really like, meaning that there's certain tricks where it's just about what you say and people believe something's happening and you're not actually doing much in the way of sleight of hand. And once they believe that, you can then put another deception on top. So the lovely way he put it was you create a house of bullshit, and I might be getting this wrong. When the roof of that is strong enough, you can then build another one on top of it. So the deception is double, which means it's harder to decipher and harder to understand what's going on, which I really liked. He did this glass and coin routine, which is from approaching magic, which was really good to see. And then his clarity box and some stuff in between. He had loads of stuff and not enough time. And the clarity box was good to see because there's been so many of these clear boxes. And that was the first one I remember seeing come out. And it's easy to forget that because so many, there's Paragon 3D and the Paragon box, and then the what's the David Penn one, Mystery Solved. All of them I think are good in different ways, but I think when so many of one thing come out, it's easy to forget how good this is, and it does look amazing. And this one is very, very easy. It's not knacky. It's easy to do, so this clear mystery box for a parlour is perfect, I think. And it was actually, I'd never really seen him do it, so that was good to see that. So I previously said that Harrison Greenbaum was the best thing I'd seen at a magic convention for various reasons, and that has changed now because this is the best thing I've seen at a magic convention. So Peter Clifford started off and did a couple of tricks which were very nice, walking around the audience doing a huge multiple selection. I think he'd kind of misjudged the size of the room because he was knackered when he got back on stage, which I found very amusing. So I did a couple of really nice lead up to a book test. He didn't do a book test because Tom Crosby had done a similar book test already, which I thought was quite nice, but he showed how he took the Shakespeare book test and rattled off all of Shakespeare's works using a kind of poetic mnemonic, which had a really nice rhythm to it and was really enjoyable. He then went on, as you've just seen, to do this talk about theatre, and he's very theatrical, Peter. He did say, I'm going to talk about theatre and stagecraft, and part of me was thinking, we've had quite a lot of this now. We've had quite a lot of theory. Are we in danger of going the other way when the theory is good because for a while it was just tricks we learnt in lectures, but are we in danger of having another day of theory? And actually, it was brilliant because it was another completely different take. It was from someone who's worked the stage for a very long time, who is an actor, who does Shakespeare, also does magic. He puts on his own show and has done for many, many years. He also works with other performers a lot, so a hugely experienced performer in many ways. And just to talk about, obviously that's the important stuff that we forget, that vocal warm-up, which it is easy to sort of say, we don't need that, but how can make a huge difference. And he did the thing with the glass and blowing through a straw, which is a warm down for the voice, which for me, again, being a street performer for many years, my voice is knackered. If I'd have done all this stuff, would have made a huge difference. So if you are working close up, it's really important that you look after your voice, and for someone to give you those practical tips was great. He then talked about stagecraft, what is stage right, what's stage upstage, and that's important if you're ever working a stage to know that terminology. He got volunteers out of the audience and talked about how important it was to have them a certain distance away, not too far, not too close. If you've got more than one audience member, how you stagger them up the stage so it looks like more of a symmetrical pattern, how you use the stage, how you create symmetry, as I said, all these hints and tips of how to use your voice, how to talk to a volunteer. And he wasn't saying you've got to do it like this. He was kind of going, well, look, if you think about all this stuff, it will look more professional, and those details will subconsciously go into your audience members, and they will see something that looks more polished. and he's published these lecture notes that goes into this, which I will be talking about again. But just to have that is incredibly, we've all seen a bit of it in Maximum Entertainment, but we need as much of that as possible to bring our magic to the next level, which was very much a kind of theme of the session for me. It was details. It was about what can we do to all these little things which may seem small or big, like writing a joke like Harrison did, but will all go together to create a more professional magician, in all of us. So very interesting, and I'm really glad that people went along with that. To see those people doing those vocal warm-ups, like, good on you. If you were in the audience, because when he started the warm-ups, everybody was like, this is a bit weird. And people just committed, and it was a lovely thing to see, because it could have gone either way at that point for me. I thought, if people don't go for this, it's going to be really uncomfortable. And there was just more of them, and these tongue twisters. So I found it delightful, and I found Peter's talk a real joy to watch.
Red lorry, yellow lorry. Red lorry, yellow.
And David Williamson came on and kind of said, I don't really know what I'm going to do at this point. And he does what he does, and he experimented. Sometimes very successfully, sometimes not so successfully, but always a joy to watch, which, I will talk about again as, he's someone that will sit in the bar and be enthusiastic about watching a young magician do moves, and also someone that can go on stage and just be absolutely hilarious. And we've all talked about how he is someone that, had he should really be on stage in front of thousands of people every day of the week in Vegas. Or on TV. For me, just as funny as Steve Martin, etc., etc., etc. Just the physicality of the man is just incredible to watch. Even how he stands is funny. Genuinely funny bones. So he did lots of things. He did a couple of sort of hints, told a couple of stories, and as I've said, he's a great storyteller. He then talked about performance and did an experiment where he got, oh my gosh, 3 people onto stage and said, look, we're just going to try something. Three magicians, one magician that had been doing it for less than 6 months or a year, one magician that had been doing it less than 10 years, and one magician that had been doing it for 40 years. And then he borrowed, that was pre-organised, some lay people, who were people that worked in the hotel, to stand on stage and judge the performance of these people. But not only that he got 4 random objects from the audience and said, right, here are 6 lay people, you 3 magicians have got to go up and think of something now to do with those 4 objects. And man, it was both joyous and excruciating. So excruciating. And the only thing that made it watchable was the way he dealt with it. It was so funny, and anybody else, it would have looked cruel and mean. With him doing it, it was just very, very funny. So, and it was really funny that when these lay people, muggles, whatever, walked onto the stage, it was like, I don't know, I run training sessions, and a couple of years ago I was running a training session in this building in a park. And at one point, this dog ran into the training room and ran around, and everybody was just smiling. It was just lovely. It really broke state. Everybody's in this thing, and this dog's running around, the chaos of this dog. And it was just a really different thing to have in that room, and it totally changed the energy of the room. It felt a bit like that when these lay people walked in. You've got these magicians that have literally been in each other's company on day 3, and you've got these normal people walking in on stage just with a totally different energy. And judging these magicians, I thought it was glorious. They looked quite comfortable, but a little bit uncomfortable, but not in a bad way. But a very lovely dynamic. And each magician looking at these props and going, I don't know, and with David Williamson, David behind them, sort of egging them on and sort of criticising them. Just so funny. And the last guy, man, just, well, yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Some of you may think I've already gone into too much detail, but just really felt for these people. I've been doing magic for a long time, and I would have struggled. And then the gag was that he said, right, I'll do it now. And John Archer came on with all these props, and he didn't use the existing props. So very funny, very unique. And he did a lot of other stuff. He got individuals up on stage and helped them with their materials. Sometimes that worked, sometimes it didn't. He couldn't. Sometimes there was nothing to give, which he said. But again, I think we all got things out of it. He showed a couple of moves that he'd been working on. It was a real mixed bag of David Williamson, an audience with David Williamson, I suppose, and a real joy to see. And what I will say about that, some people were a bit like, oh, that was a bit weird. How did I feel about that? Because it was a bit unplanned. You always see something you will never see again. And I think that's a great thing. Danny Buckler then did the live podcast. Danny's been kind of a friend of the session for a long time. He's done different bits of hosting, which he did. He did a really good job. Him and Harry DeCruz did some as well, and of course Andy and Josh hosting the thing. Really kept it together, and a very strong presence on stage. He is a strong presence. So he's done my show in the Greystones in Sheffield once, and he has command of an audience and a confidence. He's done stage work for a very long time, so I always enjoy listening to him talk, and it was a really good podcast talking about what he thinks of magic, but also performance. I liked when he was talking about Harris and stuff, and how you've really got to go to the edge or push things sometimes over the edge to understand where that edge is. And it's really how I feel about things that do, push the boundary of taste or whatever, or performance. And yes, sometimes they might go a bit too far, and sometimes they may not work. But it's so much more important to see people go there, so we can then re-establish those edges, which really, again, really good to hear someone from on stage say that. The Andrew Goldenhirsch lecture, loads of really good stuff about theory. A big Q&A at the beginning, which was really good to see. I did worry that it was just going to be all Q&A, but then he went into this performance stuff, which again had a very different take to everyone else. He spoke a lot about stepping out of your comfort zone and what that means, and I'm very passionate about that idea of, we have to feel a little bit uncomfortable and train ourselves to do that, and for that to become the new comfort in a way. And always good to see someone that knows his stuff, that has been around the block, and I don't mean that in a rude way, but has done a lot of stage work, give advice to magicians that maybe are starting their professional journey, or magicians like me that have been on it for a very long time. So again, really a very professional lecturer and performer, and a good addition to the session program. The gala show, that was obviously the next main thing. Now, so it's a comedy gala show. Danny Buckler was hosting, so we have a comedian hosting, which is a good thing. First up, we had Javier Benitez. It was very, very, as Danny said, very intense, in a good way. He did this homage to Ascanio, which is just amazing, with a GoPro on his hands. For me, oddly enough, I'd have preferred, I think, not to be a GoPro on his hands, maybe a little bit further back, so we're seeing it from a spectator's point of view. The skill of that routine is incredible, but sometimes when you've got cards that close to the camera, you do lose a little bit of that deception. And a couple of moments the sort of spell was broken for me. That isn't criticising the routine, it's just technically, I think sometimes it's good to have a camera a little bit back and to lose that fisheye and to make it look a bit more naturalistic if you're going to do something so beautiful, which it was. So it's a stunning routine, really good to see live. I'd never seen it live. And I love his passion and that kind of bravado, the kind of drama of it. Which is very Spanish, and I say that in a good way. After Javier, Henry Harris came on, and also acknowledged the fact that he wasn't a comedian. So we've got two. Now, Javier is funny, actually. He's very funny. He's got that very Spanish sort of energy about him. And Henry is nice to watch and can be quite... No, well, he isn't a comedian, is he? So again, we had an act that was great, but a lot of stuff that we'd seen, because he'd lectured the thing. So a lot of people saw his lecture, then he's doing stuff he lectured. There were a bit of a technical problem there, which we saw, which I quite like to see. He humanises us all. I don't like to see it as in, ha, you messed up, but it just, it just humanises us and shows that, again, we're all fallible. I did find that for a second act, it was maybe, the show was, again, it wasn't really doing the comedy thing yet, and there was a lot of, there was bits of dead time which I felt didn't really engage. But, great to watch him. If I hadn't watched the lecture, to watch that stuff would have been great. And Rune Clan was next. Now, Rune's someone that I've talked about when we talked about the podcast. He's really funny to watch. I love his TV stuff. I've watched a lot of it. I love his book. I love his way of thinking about things. And he did this a multiplying balls routine, which I saw him do a version of years ago, which was really good to see. And I love multiplying balls. I just love the aesthetic of them and how they look. I've got a bit of a fascination with balls. That sounds so wrong. But, I've been a juggler, and I love doing that. I love the Conan ball, the sort of steel ball routine, all that kind of stuff. So, love the magic. He did this really surreal routine when he's talking, when he's doing eggs appearing from his mouth and breaking them on his head. I really like that. For me, again, the opening of that act was wonderful, had it been seen on its own. But again, you've seen two acts that are quite intense, and was kind of waiting for it to kick in. By the time the magic kicked in, I went with it and loved it. But to add to the show, I think it was still kind of at that level. And then Wayne Dobson came on stage and did a routine. And again, you look at that, and it was incredibly moving. To see someone with a disability on stage is, like he said, in it, is very, very important. It's important that people see it. It's important that people don't dismiss it. The nature of the act was, because of the condition, very funny in parts, really funny in parts, because he got Alex out from Vanishing Ink and used him and just messed with him, which is that dynamic is funny because it breaks a few kind of taboos in a way. The pace of it, again, because of where it was, through no criticism of the thing itself, was quite slow. So you've got this thing that happens that goes on for quite a long time that has loads of things good about it, which is so healthy and so wonderful in so many ways. And to see someone that's been through what he's been through and in the situation he's in still going on a stage, is such a positive thing. But technically, you're looking at, again, a pacing issue. And by this time, I think the show had a bit of a pacing issue. He was given an award then, which was a very, very, very moving thing to see and to witness, and it was incredible, really, really emotional. And then it was David Williamson who closed the show with his brilliant sponge ball routine. I don't mean sponge ball routine, you hold that one, well, there's two in your hand, nothing wrong with that, but with his sponge ball routine that he does in the Cirque show, which is hysterical. He's got the rhythm and the way he uses repetition, and a really simple idea that he's built this comedy around that I just loved, and it was a brilliant finish to the show and really raised it up. So as a show, every part of it, like the individual bits, were brilliant. As a comedy gala show, it took a bit too long for the comedy to kick in. Rune Clan done some really funny stuff, but that was kind of the first time. And obviously Danny hosting was funny, did his routines, which I think was needed. But to me, as a gala show, it never really took off. It was there and it was interesting to watch, but it never really went like that. And actually, I do find that in a lot of gala shows at conventions. Andy and Josh just made it a really special convention. They put so much effort into it. Every year, the big conversation is how are they going to top this next year, and how are they going to top it with guests? And they always do. Well, not top it. I mean, just make it as good. The venue, I think, is really good. Some people say it's a bit corporate. I really like it. I think it's the only way to do it as well for these things to be successful and to carry on. They have to be in places sometimes. Yeah, have it in the middle of London, but that's going to cost ridiculous amounts of money, and it isn't going to survive probably. So it's important it's there. People can fly in, they can do their stuff, they can fly out again. That means you've got more access to international acts without having to bring them into London and put them in very expensive hotels, etc. I thought the hotel was really comfortable. I thought the food was okay. And I had a really, really good time. Everybody was very friendly. Everybody was open to new ideas. It didn't feel stuck for me as Magic did a long time ago. And everybody that put that thing together and was part of that thing, and the Vanishing team just worked so incredibly hard. They're taking the thing down, as they're doing a lot of conventions, I know, but, through the night and then flying to America to Magi Fest. And it sounds great, but I see how hard they work. So thank you very much. There will be more discussion on this. I will go into, if you've got any questions, and put them in the comments section, and I will add to that in future videos. I will be doing live videos nearly every Monday at 4. I couldn't yesterday because I just got to Tromsø. But do ask questions and comment and share this to those people who think might enjoy it. I will be coming back and doing this in Blackpool Convention. I will be releasing videos every day there as well. So again, subscribe, get involved and be part of the community. And thank you very, very much indeed. Oh, and check out cardmagiccourse.com. All right, take care. Thank you very much for watching these very long, very rambly summaries of the session convention, and I'll see you there next year, hopefully.